Brian's Beat.
What I'd like to do, we've also been talking about the fact that this week is Parcc testing week in the city of New Bedford. The majority of the students are taking the test, but there is a vocal yet minority of parents that have opted their children out of taking the test, and then a percentage of those people have been protesting at schools this week and at the school department building on County Street in New Bedford. One of those parents is Jennifer Duarte, and she comes back onto the program today. Jennifer, good morning.
Good morning. How are you, Brian?
I am excellent. Yourself?
Good.
Good. Before I talk to you in regards to what's going on with your protest this week, your child doesn't go to the Gomes School or the Renaissance School or Hayden McFadden. But
No.
how would you feel if the elementary school that your children go to all of a sudden decided, well, you know what, we're going to keep them until 5 o'clock and we're going to start serving dinner?
First of all, that wouldn't be an option for us because I believe in family time. I believe in parents raising their children and nobody else raising their children. My issue with that is I have no problem with those that need assistance, but like somebody else said, they're getting food stamps or whatever, but the food stamps are to feed your family. If the students are now getting breakfast, lunch, and supper in school, then why do the parents need the food stamps? Because they're no longer feeding their children.
Good point. Or certainly minimize the amount that comes in food stamps.
Or give it back, put the money back into whoever's paying for these meals.
Point taken. I would still rather see the kids at home. I don't believe that the overwhelming majority or anywhere near that, the parents are, turning around and taking that food stamp and going for the money. Do I believe that some are? Yeah, of course they are. I've seen it happen. But the numbers, I just don't think are there. Speaking of numbers, you guys were out at the Parcc school earlier today. How did that go?
That went great. We have parents all over the city that were not aware that they could refuse the test. So it's pretty... it's actually good to know that we're helping parents make a choice in their children's education because they're being lied to and they were not aware that they had the choice.
When you say parents are being lied to, let's talk about where the choice that you're talking about is opting out of these statewide high-stakes tests like Parcc and MCAS. How were these people and who was doing the lying?
Administration is sending home information, letters, notes, stating that a child does not have the option to opt out. But the thing is, it's the wording. They're very tricky. You cannot opt out. You can refuse the tests. And the second these parents get these letters, they're intimidated. They feel like, oh, I thought that I could refuse the test. My son is vomiting because he is so nervous, but they told me I can't refuse. And they're being lied to. They absolutely 100% can refuse the test. It is our constitutional right as parents to make that decision for our children.
And I believe I've seen somewhere where the actual Commissioner of Education here in the Commonwealth, the leader of the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, has also stated that it is a right.
Yes, he has.
So when you're out there protesting the other day, if I recall correctly, you were stating that the police thought that you were going to be at the Swift School, and they actually had an officer there waiting for you. Were you greeted with police today?
No, we were not.
Well, that's a good sign.
Yes.
So did the principal come out and say, run away, get away, or anything like that?
Nope.
So basically you were there greeting parents that were coming in with their children.
Yes, we did have a principal at Winslow School going from classroom to classroom, making an announcement to the students that if they didn't get a good grade on their Parcc exam, they weren't going to be held back, and that the protesters were the ones that were telling the children that. None of us are speaking to children. We are educating parents. So, the lies from administration is where intimidation takes place.
So let's back this up just a little bit, if you would, please. The Winslow School, elementary school, you were at the Winslow earlier this week. The principal is saying what to the different classrooms?
That regardless of how bad they do on the Parcc exam, they won't stay back. And that's what the protesters are telling the children.
Why would you even bother telling the children that they would stay back? It seems that your momentum is just the opposite.
Absolutely. We like I said, we never speak to children. We talk to the parents. We are very polite. We're very informational. The administration has to try to intimidate, lie, and force parents to get their children to take the test because all they care about is numbers.
So how do you know that the principal was going from room to room, classroom to classroom, and saying these things? What is there anything to prove what you're accusing right now?
I have inside sources, but I will not give names because of retaliation from the administration. So
am I understanding that the inside source might be someone that works for the school department? Or are you hearing from other students? Are you hearing from parents of students?
Employees.
Employees. Interesting.
Hence where the retaliation comes in, because administration will not retaliate on me.
Well, and you're not at the Winslow School. You weren't inside the Winslow School, so they couldn't say anything to you. You're going to say actually what?
Let's talk about that, because Mitchell Chester actually stated in his refusal statement that all refusals are to be treated with sensitivity, and the children that were refusing could bring a book, and reading was sufficient. If they became if they became loud during testing, they were to be moved to another room with adult supervision, and no informal or formal lessons need to take place. Reading a book would suffice. So my daughter started her third grade testing this past Monday, and she came prepared with about, I think, 3 to 5 books. One of them was Winn-Dixie, very age appropriate. My children read daily. When my daughter came home from school, she told me that she was told she couldn't read the book she brought, and all of the refusal students in the third grade were given the same book, and they were going to do a book report and a project on it, and if they didn't, they were going to be in trouble. But what my daughter said next was kind of disturbing to me, that there were some bad words in the book. So I asked her for the name of the book, and I downloaded it and read it within 2 hours.
What's the name of the book?
Justin and the Best Biscuits in the World.
Justin and the Best Biscuits in the World.
Yes, and this book, from what I was told from the principal, is very age appropriate, and it's a historical book. And as I read through it, yes, I would agree. But the N-word, the discussion on the KKK, and some other really graphic text was in the book. And my issue with this is, if you're going to teach our students the history behind it and explain to them that that N-word is derogatory, then that's a different story. But to hand that to a third grader to read on their own, that is where the problem lies.
Wow.
Because if my daughter said that word, I would be upset, and I think anybody else would be.
I got you. Only because of time, I got to let you go. I do appreciate your time, Jennifer. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Brian's Beat.